Thanks, Heather. It's nice of you for you to stay. I mean, this is a long day. It must be very tiring. Save the best till last. Now, research. We've always been doing research in a rheumatology department in QA. But research has been more or less exploded as well over the last couple of years, mainly because rheumatology is now so exciting. So exciting not just for us, not just for patients, but also for pharmaceutical company and also for Department of Health. Why is it exciting? Well, if you know biologics cost £10,000, and the number one drugs, number one, number two, number three bestseller drugs are all anti-TNF. Then you can see the interest of pharma company to invest in research. And what's the interest of NHS? It's the cost. It's very expensive drugs. And so they want to keep the cost down. And rheumatology, 15 years ago, is one of the cheapest medical specialties within NHS. It costs very little because methotrexate costs only £100 a year. And now we have biologics, which is £10,000 a year per patient, and is long-term treatment. And suddenly, our drug budget is now $6.1 billion a year. This is more than oncology budget. So we now become the most expensive medical specialties in Department of Health. So they're exciting for many reasons. There are some challenges. So there is why research is getting even more exciting. One, we do want to find out a better drug, if we can, beyond anti-TNF. Just a show of hands, if you don't mind, any of you taking biologics? Excellent. I guess would be the majority, which is why you are here. Yeah. Now, biologics is, if I tell you now, only a beginning of what is to come. This is how exciting that rheumatology is at the moment. The amount of research they go into is the anti-TNF. When we first had it 15 years ago, we thought this is the holy grail. This is the wonder drug, the answer to every question. But of course, 15 years later, it's still the wonder drug, but we still have unsolved problem. The holy grail is yet to come. The treatment that you have various biologics so far, we call biologics, and you understand what biologics are, which is biologically synthesized, not chemically synthesized. One reason the pharma company give is that because it's not chemically synthesized, we need a specialized guinea pig and have biological processes, so it costs us a lot of money in a sterile environment, so we charge £10,000 a year. Yeah. And that's the reason for charging so much. But it is worthwhile, as my talk this morning, that is very worthwhile in terms of keep patients well, in terms of keep them working, which is the key sort of outcome measure. But more importantly, it's the intangible cost. So if one person has rheumatoid arthritis and you don't treat them well, it's not just that one person loses their job. It's an extended family had to withdraw for their own social life, withdraw for their charitable life, and help that individual because it's the power of family. That intangible cost, you can't measure it. We don't know how to measure it. We're very poor at measuring. All we can measure is this person doesn't work, therefore doesn't pay taxes, and then collect benefits, and therefore we have this kind of cost, all tangible costs. But intangible cost is far more. So when you spend £10,000 for biologics, it's worth every single penny when you keep patient well. We know that. So spending it is not a problem. The problem with NHS is that we keep spending it, keep people well, so people pay tax to the Chancellor, to the Treasury, but we don't get the money back to invest. Unfortunately, the drug budget has to grow, but there's a different debate. Anyway, back to research. So research now, to understand research, you need to understand what research is. So I'm going to take you to 4 points. The learning objectives, a bit about what clinical trials, what kind of trials we are doing, a sort of a snapshot of it, and how we're doing, and how you can get involved. There's two. So what are clinical trials? You probably can guess what clinical trials are. They are research studies that explore, this is important, explore whether a medical strategy, the way deliver it, not actually medicine, or treatment, which is medicine, or device, so actually not medicine, so a method of delivery, whether it's safe and effective for humans. So it's important, the next statement as well, these studies also may show which medical approaches work best for certain illnesses or group of people. So emphasize group of people. So they had to be very precise in terms of you are the right kind of people for the trial, so that you can compare apple and pear, so whether the drug works. So they're very selective in what kind of patient they include. So they're clinical trials. There are two things I'm very passionate about clinical research, which is why I try to embed it in this department and beyond. And the number one is really another option treatment for some of very difficult patients. Probably about, my guess is about 5% or less, but there are 5% patients, you can have the current anti-TNF, but they still have active disease. Where do we go next? With clinical trial and clinical research, it fast-track you probably 10 years before the drug license approved by NHS, and give you available drugs to treat you now and not for over 10 years when you're struggling. So the option is very important to have. Second, when you know about research is really the care that research deliver is very high quality. You almost get a one-to-one care with a research nurse, one point of contact, you have regular monitoring of everything. Every time you come in, you get checked from head to toe. And a blood test, and things that we do, I will show you an example later on. They even have MRI of your wrists, of your hands, just to see how things are progressing or not progressing, which is not routine practice within NHS for routine MRI scan. So two things. So the culture of research, once it embedded, it raised the bar again. We are doing fairly well, but I think there's room to make it even better. Research is one way of doing that. This is a quick slide of what it means by research in terms of how we conceive an idea to implementation at different level called phases, and then to the outcome, approve, show efficacy, show safety, and then you register and license the drug. It's important to understand this bit because everything else will flow after that. So if you have enough evidence, usually based on a small study, to say that actually this is the idea that we should take forward, come up, generate a theory, and then you have to prove whether that theory exists. So the phase one is an early trial, understand what mechanism is involved, and in phase two, you start to explore the trial in bigger group of patients, not 10, but probably hundreds of them. By the time you reach phase three, you talk about thousands of them. Because by then, safety already established, efficacy already established in 100 patients. Now you know whether 1,000 patients, usually by the time you phase three, you have global, international clinical trial. Not one country, but usually about 16 to 20 countries involved to get thousands of patients. And that, by the time you have phase three evidence, you're enough to license the drugs and say this has proven in clinical trial beyond doubt that it's effective. Phase four is usually already licensed drugs, and then you monitor what we call post-marketing surveillance. It's safe for clinical trial, you test it out in real life. Does it look the same? So any report of a side effect incident will still ongoing report to feedback centrally to find out post-marketing surveillance. So because occasionally new things still pop up when you roll out to not thousands, but more than hundreds of thousands of patients. So phase three and four are the research that we are doing. So phase three and four, which really meet our agenda in terms of phase 3, drug is safe and work, and we already give you an option something like 10 years earlier than you will get otherwise. Because the trial take usually about 4 years to run, 2 years to write up, analyze, and publish. They will give you 6 years and license the drugs, and you probably get 3 to 4 years before NICE will approve the use in NHS. So you are looking at 10 years earlier to get the drugs. So that's why we're not looking at phase 1 and 2 because they're still quite experimental. But by the time you reach in phase 3, is not tens, not hundreds. It's almost close to 1,000 people already tested and worked. And they don't want to license in every country. That's why I do an international global trial phase 3. There's another way of looking at it, which is preclinical, the bit here. This just show you the number. Phase 1 usually look at quite small number, right? Phase 2 usually about 100 of people, but phase 3 is international global trial. So when the trial, there's two ways of looking at it. One is NHS-funded clinical trial. NHS has an arm called National Institute of Healthcare Research. So it's a clinical trial arm of NHS. And they can generate research, or they can sponsor research, or they can approve certain research. On the other hand, you have pharmaceutical company sponsored research, where called commercial trial. They will invest something like 100 phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trial. Only one move on to phase 3. So the amount of investment is huge. They actually go to phase 3 means they already know you're going to work, and invest money into a phase 3. So by the time you reach phase 3, they're really 1 in 100. So you can see why when they do work, they start to charge enough money to generate the cost so that they keep on going, investing again for more clinical trials. So it's a system that works well, but you have to, in a way, pay for the investment. So if the clinical trial, doesn't matter whether NHS or commercial trial, they create a trial. Let's say it is a phase 3 trial. They create an approved protocol here. And the next thing is they need to choose investigator, meaning who is leading that particular trial for that particular hospital. And if you're chief investigator, you choose it for the country. But you're principal investigator, you are investigator for your hospital, responsible for that trial. Usually it will be a consultant, one consultant, and 7 of us will all do different number of clinical trials. And once it's approved, the approval and chosen selection usually depend on your record. Have you been good in recruiting patients, or have you been meeting the target, or have you been safe delivering clinical research? Once the approved process, and when I asked to do one of the JAG trial, I'll show you in a minute, as a chief investigator, I have to go to Oxford to talk to the National Ethics Committee, Research Ethics Committee, to explain why they should be done in UK. So there's layer behind this slide, layer of interrogation. And the research governance is now so good. Everything designed to protect patient interests. It's not so the same 20 years ago. In fact, 30 years ago, I know one of the German study, they used medical students to try to prove the concept that if you deprive you from sleep, you will have total body pain. So they deprive them from sleep for about a week, and they get pain everywhere. And then put them back to sleep, and then pain gone again. So of course, there's inhumane nowadays. There's a form of torture you use. But in terms of research, those days you can do almost anything. Nowadays you can't. Nowadays research has huge, very strong, robust, rightly so, research government. Patient interests always protected. And then come to this bit, which is, where's my arrow? Okay, patient recruitment. And that is what will, once approved, there's a bit that you come in, and there's a bit that we do most clinically. And the amount of work, most work done at this stage. And then the data you collected usually share. If it's a global trial, it will be shared globally, and you'll be assigned a trial number. You will not be named, so that you're anonymized. And that will be shared and analyzed. Hundreds is not good. thousands and thousands become very powerful result and evidence to say whether the drug works or not. And then once they analyze, always publish in a conference, international conference, and then we share the ideas and share the results. And then, only then, they can file for licensing and registration. And then the drug is safe to use. And even then, they have to apply for individually different countries' licensing authority to get approval. And you can see pharma companies like international trial. Why? Because if you do a lot of international trials, that country already using that drug for some of their patients. And that is just that much easier to get licensing for their countries. So there's many reasons why international trial is being recruited. But for rheumatoid arthritis, 1% of patients with rheumatoid arthritis develop rheumatoid arthritis in 1% population. So you really need a lot of countries to make up the number. So there's other reasons. In our department, we have 7 rheumatology consultants, 3 rheumatology specialty registrar, and 4 research nurses, but really it's only 2 whole-time equivalent because they only have some part of their job doing it. Going forward, it would just matter of time, I think, that research will be part of the norm, that everybody will do a bit of research. All the 10 nurses will be doing some research. We're in the process of getting a research fellow this year, first one. Next year, we're the second one. That's the plan in progress. So these are the trials that is happening right now. I won't dwell on it too much, but I will pick 1 or 2. I'll pick 2 to talk about it for today. PREDICT-RA, the number 1 on the top here, is a good example of how we are not testing a drug. We're testing medical strategy, how best to use it. So PREDICT rheumatoid RA, PREDICT rheumatoid arthritis, is only designed for patients taking biologics. Has to be, in this case, Humira, and they're in remission. So when they're in remission, so far, you continue treatment for the rest of your life. This trial is going to be a landmark trial where answer one question: how can we withdraw treatment? If we do, how best to withdraw treatment? So the question to that research is not drug. The drug already being used for 15 years, you're still taking it. It's how to reduce it safely at the right pace without causing your arthritis to flare. That is based on a lot of small studies all over the world that we now know if you have remission for 12 months, it's safe for you to withdraw treatment. And up to 90% can stay in remission by withdrawing treatment. The question we don't know is how do we withdraw treatment? Your once every 2-week drugs become once every 3 weeks, once every 4 weeks, or do we stop? So there are the 3 arms that the research try to answer. What is the best way of safe withdrawal? And then they can make a recommendation. It will come. It's going to happen. It's just how to do it. And then there are other ultrasound trial, tuberous ultrasound trial to tight control your disease and titrate. And Jack, I'll talk about it in a minute. These are called interventional. There are 2 types of trials out of different phases. The 2 types of trials, one is interventional, one is observational. Observational tend to be the phase 4 post-marketing surveillance, where you already on a drug that is licensed, we just observe how you're getting on. And they are the easy one to recruit because you come to clinic normally, there's no extra commitment, you just collect the data when you come in. If you're well, great. Why do you respond so well to this drug? If you're not responding, why not? What is your characteristic make this drug not suitable for you? So we are still learning different things for the drugs. So that's helpful going forward. Interventional, as the name suggests, is introduce method or treatment that is currently not being practiced. New, so new innovation. So PREDICT-RA, how to reduce treatment, is new because we don't do that routinely. You just carry on every 2-weekly injection, but with PREDICT-RA, we do it 3-weekly. So that is new, so they call it interventional. But actually, it's not it's not a matter of whether safe or unsafe. Some of the feedback that some patients have concern is research sounds like you're experimenting some drugs on me, but actually,
Please go to poolside, Mr. Fair to poolside. Thank you.
you soon find out that the phase 3 and 4 is not experimental drug. Phase 3 and 4 is already approved drug. And phase 4 definitely, phase 3 is actually rolling out globally. So it's already been to robust safety mechanism. And that's what we are more interested in doing, which is phase 3 and 4. 1 and 2, maybe something in the future, but not now. Okay. So there's intervention drug trial. Observational, we had loads of them. Observational, as I said, well, the number tend to be bigger in terms of recruitment, and we have quite a lot of them doing. And if you look at, just pick one out, BSR means British Society of Biologics Register. Now, British Society of Rheumatology Biology Register is one of the best in the world in terms of data in advice clinician globally how to use biologics in terms of safety instead of efficacy. We're now reaching 20,000 years of patient experience of biologics in this country. We were the very first one setting up biologic register. So if you have Humira or any other drugs, biologics, we feedback to centrally, and they collect the data. And now enough, in 20,000 years, there's a lot of patients. And then we can answer, is it really increased certain cancer risk, or is it really unfounded fear? So a lot of question has been answered through that. Persist, and to draw your attention to this one, persist. You might have heard of biosimilar. Anyone? Biosimilar, yeah. So biosimilar are the reason why I call biosimilar is because biologics, no one can create identical biologics. Because a biological synthesized from a guinea pig, let's say, unless you have the same guinea pig, you cannot create a biological identical drug. They're at best similar. And that's what the pharma company very cleverly and say, it's not identical, so not the same. So then we can continue to charge £10,000 a year. Normally, when it's out of patent, a drug price will drop by 90%. In this case, they make a case is that it's not identical drug. If I make paracetamol, you know the formula, my drug out of patent, another company can make it, they make the identical chemical, sell it cheaper, I had to match their price, 90% drop in price, generally speaking, but not for biologics. However, the biosimilar also know that the biosimilar is a huge competition. I just told you that anti-TNF is the world number 1, 2, and 3 bestseller. And last year alone, the bestseller number 1 is Humira, which has 15 billion sales a year. 15 billion is bigger than any, the earnings more than Shell or BP, in fact, definitely more than any of the banks. One drug. So you can see the biosimilar, a new company try to make this copy. All they need is, 10% of the share is 1.5 billion. That's huge for a small startup company. So the competition is steep. So the first biosimilar that come to the market is Remicade, which is infliximab. It's infusion. Some of you might be on it. And they came last year, and this year is Enbrel, so etanercept biosimilar. Now, etanercept has 5 biosimilar in the market. 2 approved, 3 will come soon. Humira in 2018 will have 9. So the challenge, there's pros and cons in that. The good news is the more drugs coming into the market, you will have a price war and drive the price down. Okay, only good for health economy. It will only be good. The downside, I fear the downside, how do we moving forward with biologic register? When traditionally one drug, let's say have 1,000 patients you treat, now dilute by 10 different biosimilar, you have 100 patients to treat. And you can't read too much about small numbers, about how to take it forward. Is it safe, it's not safe, in terms of post-marketing surveillance. So there are different challenges. I suspect only the first 3 biosimilar will win, the rest will not take off. But we'll wait and see. So and PERSIST is a biosimilar for infliximab. It's an observational trial. They're on it, just want to observe how efficient or how in terms of safety and efficacy. So they're looking at that for about 2 years actually. So right now we are top recruiter for Europe in that small studies. It's only 20 patients. Now, these are trial, when you finish recruitment, stop recruitment, then you go to follow-up phase for usually range between 1 to 2 years. And follow-up phase usually not as intensive anymore. It's more or less like your normal clinic once every 3 months or so. But you get detailed capture of your data. And then usually 1 to 2 years, and then the trial will completely close. And then you'll be out of the trial by then. So the commitment to trial is actually only in the beginning, the first 6 to 12 months. Yeah. There is a little bit more intensive. And there are different projects that is in set-out phase. I'll talk about JAK trial in a second. And a lot of this trial we've been doing in only the last 12 to 18 months. So we are really punch above our weight in terms of how we're delivering it. So are we doing well? I think we definitely are in terms of only 2 research nurses and some and few consultants doing it. ACTION is a clinical trial on tocilizumab. In 2014, we had 350 sites over 24 countries, and it's an observational trial. So nothing new. It's a licensed drug, and we just recruited and then observe how you're getting on, collect the data. And we are fortunate to be the top recruiter in the globally. The target for us was 4, and we recruited 33. And just to show you how difficult in terms of recruitment is that most center don't meet their target recruitment. To meet it is a real achievement. And when I call it trashing the target number from 4 to 33, then there is excel. Then you get recognition for that. But the PERSIST trial, we're now still ongoing recruitment, finish early next year. It's only in place for 3 months. We already have 20 patients for a trial that is 1 year long. In 3 months, in 1 year, we're supposed to recruit 4. In 3 months, we already have 20. BSRBL is a biologic register for rheumatoid arthritis, and last 2 years, we're the top recruiter in the country. And there's nationally and locally, PhD research has given innovation award, and we were top recruiter for last year for not just rheumatology, but all trials in the hospital across oncology, cardiology, respiratory, with the top recruiter overall. And then this year, they decided to give us a different award. It's a special award for what they call above and beyond call of duty. And I can share you the story. And this is how dedicated teams are. And also, by sharing that story, you also know how much effort that we put in to try to deliver this clinical trial, and also how much attention you actually get. So this is a case where a trial called Future 5 is designed for patients with psoriatic arthritis, where introduce this newer drug, a phase 3. You require the first 5 weeks weekly visit. You have to have been weekly visit for first 5 weeks, and after that monthly visit. And the weekly visit, you can only have a difference of 24 hours, give and take 1 day difference, no more. So of course, who do you need at that visit? You need a principal investigator, consultant. You need a special nurse available. And then you make sure you need within hours, working hours, where blood tests and x-ray can be done. and then also patient availability. So in this special day on a Wednesday, the consultant has to be somewhere out of Portsmouth, but not available after 9 p.m. So what they did is get patient agreement, and the special nurse actually come back from her annual leave, pick up the patient 7 o'clock in the morning from her home, and then bring it to the department at 8 o'clock in the morning. The consultant to assess the patient, do what the monitoring visit, where that particular visit need to be done, and then catch a train to London at 9 o'clock. So this is all out after hours. And that story, when I share at the research lead meeting, is basically show we only have 2 research nurses. Not like oncology, they have 10 research nurses, 10. And yet we managed to recruit a lot. And that's because individually, they're all very passionate about delivering the care. These are patients who are desperate for treatment. These are patients who all the biology no longer work. So this phase 3 is a new molecule, not being approved yet. And so far, the 5 that we recruit, all 5 been responding, which is great. So this is an option that we have now with clinical trial for patients. But come with responsibility and a lot of delivering outside the office hours. The team has been very dedicated. That's why this above and beyond call of duty award. Yeah. So Predict-RA has some challenges. This is one of 2 trials I'm going to talk about today. And the challenge is this. If your joints are bad, in pain, and you recruit in clinical trial, it's actually quite easy because you want treatment, right? If the current treatment not working, you have no option, and with the NHS, can I consider some clinical trial? You will want to have that. The problem with this trial is that we are looking at if you're in remission, so your joints are good, but you need to come back in more frequently than you used to be, so for us to carefully titrate downwards your treatment, right? So there are some challenges. If you're working, which is what the whole point of keeping in remission and work, they now put you out of work 1 day every 6 weeks. For some, it's quite a lot of commitment. So not only we have a lot of patients in remission, but something of logistic difficulty because of work commitment, very difficult to come in so frequently when the joints are very well. Yeah. But still, before coming here, I just recruited our number 4 patient, which in this country, in UK, we only have 4 patients, but we're already top recruiter. The second highest is only 2, because there's difficulty in recruiting this. So if you are on Humira, and you have rheumatoid arthritis, and you're in remission, please come talk to me after this, and we can go through the trial, what it means. In fact, I'll show you now what it means, which is very straightforward. This is something you're not going to get within NHS, which is it will screen you. If you're suitable, there are certain criteria you have to fulfill. If you're suitable and you're in remission for 12 months and you're on Humira, then you screen, you approve it, then you have this thing called lead-in period, where you're going to have MRI scan of your dominant hand at this point, and then at the end of the trial, 12 months time point. So MRI of the hand to make sure nothing changed when the drop being reduced. Okay, so this is something that we don't do in NHS, but we do ultrasound scan. There's an ultrasound component here, where if you were to flare by reducing down, we watch you every 6 weekly, and we put you into flare with if your joints are beginning to flare, and that's where we do ultrasound to capture early inflammation, if it's there, and then treat it accordingly. That usually means bring it back to your usual drugs. We anticipate 90% will be okay, 10% might have the risk of flare, and then we treat it accordingly. So that's what that trial means. And you look at the frequency at the bottom, screening, week 0, week 4, and after that, every 6 weekly for about 40 weeks, about 9 months or so. And then you've been seeing something like every 3 monthly after that. So a bit of commitment in the beginning. Good. So there is anti-TNF. As I said before, anti-TNF is only the beginning of a new chapter. First page, I say. The next page, yet to know how long that chapter will be, is a molecule that no longer injection. So far, with all the 8 tablets, 8 medication in yellow, they are biologics. They come in injection or infusion. And they also share one commonality, and that is they work outside the cells. They work outside the cells. They work by blocking anti-TNF. 5 of them are anti-TNF. So they're blocking anti-TNF, but anti-TNF is a messenger that drives inflammation. So you either mop it out, bind it so it won't work in the blood, or you mop it out at the endpoint where they're supposed to bind to a receptor and cause downstream reaction. And you block the receptor, they can't bind to it, so it won't happen. So that's how we use anti-TNF blockade. Block the soluble anti-TNF or receptor, but they're still outside the cell. The receptors sit on the membrane of the cells. But with the current clinical trial, which we're doing, which is called JACC, got green light 2 weeks ago, is that this is a tablet for the first time, number one. Number two is this is a mechanism within the cells. So the higher you block upstream, the more things you potentially block without knowing it. Less specific, one could argue. The lower down you're blocking, you're more specific for the inflammation, yeah, generally speaking. But this is what is going to block downstream within the cell, cellular level. And because cellular level and the way it's made is not biologic, it's a tablet. So this tablet is an enzyme, and they make into a tablet. So this is a trial that we're going to do, which is this one here. This is a JACC, so this white man. Receptor, JACC blockade is here at this level. Inside the cell, no longer outside, but inside, okay? So this is a trial that we'll be doing, but at the moment, it's only the one in the middle. Beyond is approved, given green light last week or 2 weeks ago. The rest will come online over the next few months. Now, the one beyond is probably the best one that are really keen to get involved, and that's because they are designed for biologic failure. When a drug in phase 3, doing in not only in early disease before methotrexate, in secondary stage where you have methotrexate failure, and when they're confident enough to show that we're not only doing a trial on biologic failure, 1 biologics, 2 biologics, or 3 or more biologics, then you probably will begin to show that they must have the confidence to do it. They won't do a trial to fail, knowing they're going to fail. They do a trial knowing they're going to succeed. And the JACC molecule is not the first JACC. This is a 3rd generation JACC. The first 2, the 2nd generation is 2 years ahead of this. It shows phenomenal result in terms of biologic failure, multiple biologic failure, and they still get 60% response for the best outcome group, which is amazing because usually you fail 1, 2, 3 biologics, the next one come along, you're lucky to get 20% to 30% response, let alone 60% response. So this is a game changer, this drug. So we now have option for the patient, and we have several desperate patients for it, and we screened the first one last week. And the number is quite small for this trial. One is set at 2, target of 2. But of course, like all trials, we can recruit more if we need to. But give us option as a clinician to treat patients. So Beyond is the one I'm sure we have no problem recruiting the number. Everyone will want to get on board. And then the name is very aptly created. Early means early. The moment you have rheumatoid arthritis diagnosed, instead of traditional method of starting methotrexate at first line, you have this kind of potential biologic equivalent drugs, which we can't give because no doubt this is going to come out by the time you license, it will be another 10,000 pounds molecule. Yeah. Compare The second on the list is when you have methotrexate but you fail, it's still earlier than what we can give biologics within NHS. Beyond, it's even better, is those who really need it beyond biologics. So you have continue open, it basically is continue for 2-3 years to observe how you're getting on. So these are just two main trials that I share with you. So there's a lot of things going on, and you'll be going forward, there'll be a lot more trial. We have huge potential to do recruitment. When our Director of Research and Innovation Department asked me to share our recruitment figure, how do you manage to do it so well? And it's quite obvious how to do so well. One is we have a very good database. We know who has rheumatoid arthritis. We know where they are. We know who they are. Psoriatic arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis. And we have a database that's live. They know who they are, where they are. And also, for rheumatoid patients particularly, we know at what stage of the disease activity from the DARS disease activity score at any one time is in the database. So when they say, I want to look at remission group, we know who they are. I want to look at bad disease group for this trial, we also know who they are. And therefore, recruitment is quite easy because we know who they are, we can contact them. Rather than we don't know who they are, then you put out a poster and then you hope for people coming forward, which is what most centers do. And that's number one thing. And the second thing is probably most important is always the team. The team want to deliver the care that is beyond standard practice. And that's probably the fundamental importance, actually. So I think I'll stop here. I think in summary, I guide you along what clinical trial is, what the rationale for it, why we're doing it, and few phases of clinical trial. We're doing mainly phase 3 and 4, and some clinical trial that we're doing. Yeah, so any questions?